Baldur's Gate 3 just had a community update and it's a doozy. So let's get on into it. It's a lot of numbers, it's a lot of info, and it's a lot of congratulations over the success of Baldur's Gate 3 over the past weekend. And I'm absolutely loving it. It's crazy. I love the things that are in here. They talk about how they had roughly 815,000 players in there. How apparently 28% of all players on Steam last Sunday were all playing Baldur's Gate 3, which is massive. Over 1/4 of the entire Steam community was playing a singular game, and I can't remember the last time something like that has ever been stated before. They also broke the top 10. They almost broke getting past Hogwarts. They haven't. I don't think that they will at this point unless they get another big boost up over the next weekend, which is probably not going to happen, but it's crazy that they got close to such a massive, massive game title. They have gone over all kinds of little statistics in here, which I think are really, really interesting and actually surprised me quite a bit that things have broke down the way they did. The people who have made choices are different than what the standard choices were when people made their class and race in D&D 5th edition, for example. So 93% of all players have played a custom class, either through Tab or making the Dark Origin. They have completely customized everything that they've had. And the big one that they had here for race choices is actually Half-Elf, and Human was actually second. I expected that humans was going to be first. It's almost always first. In the little infographic about D&D 5th edition, which talks about races and classes when people do, it's almost always human and fighter is number one, like 4% of the player base, and then everything else breaking down from there. And in fact, not even fighter is the most common classes that people have chose this time. That is actually gone to paladins. I actually am playing a gnome and a druid, which is pretty much the second to last most played race and class on this whole graph, which I was surprised. I thought a lot more people would be playing druid, just because druid has a lot going for it. You know, when you can shift and talk to animals and not have to use speak with animals all the time, and you can just have like special interactions and like have go shifting into forms, you know, gives you that extra HP and extra stuff to do before you get knocked back into your normal form. And I thought just more people would do it because there's a big focus on druids, especially in the first act. Like it's all revolving around kind of what's happening at the Grove, and very few people actually chose that, which was absolutely crazy to me. And I think the most surprising to me that number one is paladins. I expected paladins to actually kind of be low somewhere around monk, because we don't really run into any paladins except for that one group that's in Act 1, and I didn't expect it to be that popular. I'm going to base it off, this is just a guess, the reason why people are big into picking a paladin is because they're big into being with Shadowheart, and since she's a cleric, you know, people are kind of choosing those to be on the duality of those two things together. Paladins do also do a lot of damage when you factor in smite and things like that, so it could be something like that. That's the reason why they are also choosing that. But I didn't expect druid to be less popular than monk, especially since there's not really a monk companion. At least there isn't one early in the game that I know of. And I expected there to be a little bit more, but I guess monk really isn't that popular of a class, and cleric went into the absolute dumps. And I think that's probably just because most people are just going to choose Shadowheart rather than be a cleric themselves, which makes sense to me. And there's all kinds of other things in here. The 7% that didn't choose a custom character, most of them chose Gale, which makes sense. Gale's a funny guy. People like Gale a lot. Then they chose Karlach, Asterion, then Shadowheart, well, and Bazel, what I call her. I understand why people don't really like Lizelle, because she's aggressive, she's mean in the beginning, and it puts off a lot of people because of that. But eventually she kind of opens up to you and sees you as dominant and good on the battlefield, and respects you a lot more, which I like. There's also all kinds of numbers that have come out from the opening weekend of all of the people that have played and all of their choices and where things have gone. Like most people have done Sacred Grove, 65%, and then about 35% has actually assaulted the Grove. I expected this to actually be lower. Like usually the bad choice is somewhere between like under 30%, especially when I go back and think about games like the Telltale games with Walking Dead. Usually the bad choice is usually much less, but I'm surprised that this is as high as it is. But still, it's definitely in a big majority of that. Most people veered on the side of good, as they say. Scratch, the dog that you can get in game and send to your camp, has been petted over 750,000 times. I haven't got him yet, but I did get him in my early access playthrough, and I can't wait to grab him again. Over 1.4 million corpses have been spoken to, as well as 2.4 million animals, and I absolutely love the animal stuff because I'm a druid, so I have shift often, so it's really easy to speak to animals. There's a like a what do you call a boar like creature that is in the sacred grove that if you speak to him, you speak with animals, or you're a druid and speak to him as a shifted form. How he talks about, he's like, oh, I think you're Halson, and he's like, Halson said he was gonna get me a mate, and I absolutely love the voice they gave for that, and I love talking to all the little animals because it's really cool what you run into. Now, the amount of time that was actually put into the game from players is insane. 10 million hours have been played. So that means, broken down into years, 1,225 years of time was spent playing Baldur's Gate 3 over the weekend, which is crazy. That's so many hours, so many players that have come in and actually played the time in this weekend. That's an unfathomable amount of time to think that that much time is spent playing the game. I've put in my 10, I think, to 10 to 20 hours in that time, and I think about 20-ish hours into my playthrough right now, so I'm still in Act 1. And I think I'm getting close to getting out of there because in Act 1 in Early Access, I spent about 34 hours, but that was exploring pretty much everything, looking around a lot, not really knowing where to go, and that I know where to go, it's a little bit less time. But still, this is just an absolutely unfathomable amount of time, and I love all these stats. They're super crazy, super good. There is some more stuff here. Oh, they're going out and thanking us. The journeys that were full of recent had an increased size of the save games for each individual's personal tapestry. So many people were making saves, they actually increased how many saves that you can have, which was crazy. And all these hot fixes and things that they've done is actually going to be end up coming to the PS5 version. So the PS5 people, the console people are going to have a really good time when it comes to not having to deal with many late game bugs, because there are bugs that exist. Act 1 for me has been relatively bugless. I don't think I've ran into any big problem that wasn't actually caused by myself and pushing the wrong button somewhere. I've heard there's a little bit in Act 2 and a little bit in Act 3, but probably by the time that I get there, all the hot fixes that will come out will pretty much smooth out all of those bugs. That is the downside of rushing games, is that you'll run into all the issues that are missed and have to deal with that and wait or skip things until they are fixed. And when people like me who take their time to get through these stuff, because I'm doing a bunch of other stuff, allows me to get to that area unblocked by bugs, I guess would be a way to say that. But these are all just more number of things that have come in. Like, there was 368 people who actually finished the game the weekend, and I can't even imagine that. The game came out on Thursday, so like you would have had to play pretty much like 20 hours, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to actually beat the game in that amount of time, and pretty much probably ignored every side quest pretty much and only focused on main story, because otherwise there's just no way. Like, you can easily spend 30 hours in Act 1, so they must have skipped a bunch of stuff and just kind of bum rushed the game. And then we've already gone over the custom characters stuff. Apparently, people spent 88 years worth of time in character creation, and nearly 10% of characters spent at least an hour in character creation. I don't think I spent an hour character creation, probably like a half hour, because I already kind of knew what I wanted to make my character look like. I was already kind of used to the system, so it was pretty easy to like put one together. And then we've already kind of gone over this, like, Gale was the most popular origin character. He's also one of the highest reasons for causes of death, probably because of his AoE spells. We've gone over how the class and race choices are. 100,000 players were rejected by Asterion, which means, damn, they must have had a pretty low standing with him overall. There was one NPC that was shoved in the chasm for pretty much every player that they had on Sunday. Like add them all up, that pretty much was what they got. And then, yeah, that's about it for when it comes to this community update. There's not actually like any relatively big things that are going to be changing in the game. This is more just like a thank you to the community about how successful the game is, how much time they put in, and just all the things that have come out, and for Larian to have their passion and time they put into the game actually be well rewarded, especially since they're still out here fixing out doing all the hot fixes and bugs that pop up. They're doing a really great time, but I can't wait to see what they end up doing in the long run when it comes to updates that are more substantial, maybe incorporating certain mods that are popular. We'll just have to see. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.